The judiciary is often described as the last hope of the common man. It is that particular arm of government that it is believed that the common man will get true justice for whatever situation he or she finds himself. That is going to be the focus of our discussion today as we welcome you to another beautiful time on Executive Discourse, coming to you on the network service of the NTA. My name is Ololade Adeniji Adele, and today I have found myself in the home of a legal luminary. He is a senior advocate of Nigeria. He is a man who knows his onions through and through and is very well grounded. I mean, if you look at most of the major cases, the big cases that we have had in Nigeria, he's had a touch to it. Please join me as we welcome on Executive Discuss, Mr. Yes, he prefers to be referred to as to be addressed as Mr. Joseph Daudu, SAN. Hello, sir. How are you?
Hello. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you.
Thank you. Welcome to my home.
Thank you. For the purpose of this discussion taking off and for our viewers to actually understand who my guest is today, as it's our style on this program, can you please take us through your early years, your story? Where were you born? Schools you attended, all the way till you're here today?
Yes, I was born some odd 60 years ago in IBADAN, Oyo State. My father was then studying on Northern Region Scholarship at the University of Ibadan. And as soon as he finished, we moved back to Sokoto and to Kaduna. And I started my primary school education in Kaduna. And upon his return from the United States, he found employment in the Ahmadu Bello University. And around 1966, we moved to Zaria, and there I continued my primary school, finished primary education, and went to St. Paul's College, Zaria. After finishing from St. Paul's, I went straight to ABU, the School of Basic Studies, the Faculty of Law, and graduated in 1979. Went to the law school in Lagos and was called to the bar. After call to bar, I went to Port Harcourt for the National Youth Service Corps. And that began my affinity with Port Harcourt, because since then, one thing or the other has always taken me back to Port Harcourt. So my style of practice was grounded in Port Harcourt. I returned back to Zaria for my master's and opened a law firm. We were practicing under the auspices of Dr. Ahmed Kusamoto and Co. Then the law was that if you were in a regulated profession, you must have 5 years pupillage before you could break out on your own. However, the law was amended or repealed sometime in 1985.
So that doesn't stand anymore.
So it doesn't. So we then opened our own respective offices sometime in 1986. The firm of J.B. Daudu and Co. was born. Between then and now, it has 3 offices. The head office is in Kaduna, or the registered office in Kaduna, and practice continued with emphasis on litigation. And God smiled on me, and in 1995, I was made a senior advocate of Nigeria. In between then, I became president of the Nigerian Bar Association and chairman, Legal Practitioners Disciplinary Committee. I have sat or participated in every justice committee in the legal profession, from the Legal Practitioners Privileges Committee to the National Judicial Council, to special panels and committees on the reformation of the justice system. So all in all, it's been a very beautiful practice. The Lord Almighty has been kind enough to bestow His good fortunes on me. And I am widowed. I was married until 2017 when I lost my wife, and I have 7 children.
Thank God for that. Now, you naturally, for me, it was a natural, gravitation to ABU Zaria. But why law? What was it for you that made you decide that it was law you wanted to study?
2 reasons. One was my natural aptitude, my naturally curious and indeed rather inquisitive person. And secondly, I lived in the same campus. I grew up in the campus which had the Faculty of Law in ABU.
Okay.
And while walking around the campus, I walked through the Faculty of Law, and I was intrigued by seeing things on the notice board like public international law, private international law. And I saw how the law students carried themselves, and I aspired or desired to be. In any case, when people come to the house and they engage me in this discussion, next thing they will say is, this your child will read law.
Wow.
Doc, this your child will read law. And it sort of stuck naturally that was going to be my destination.
Your destination. Wow, interesting. Now, you were the president of the Nigerian Bar Association at the time. And just as I said in my opening, it is believed that the judiciary is the final hope of the common man. That is where the hope of the common man lies, in getting justice. At the time you were the president of the NBA, can you recall some of the achievements that you recorded and which still stand till today?
Yes, they're quite too numerous that it's not going to be easy to point them out. But the substantial ones really are: one, we rejigged the secretariat such that till today the secretariat is the engine room of the Nigerian Bar Association. And it does not have to be emphasis on who the elected official is. The NBA as an association can carry on its activities regardless of who is president, who is general secretary, or who is treasurer. There is a system in place. Secondly, is that we put a lot of emphasis on the reformation of the criminal justice system. That was my pet project, and we had several seminars, 2 major conferences, all pointing attention to the fact that the nation would collapse if we do not have a workable or a working criminal justice system. The efforts of others, together with mine, brought about the Administration of Criminal Justice Act in 2015. And I'm quite glad to say that up till today, we still intervene in matters of criminal justice. Still a passion to me, and we do work on it. And thirdly, is that the welfare of lawyers was very topical during administration. I took the view when I was campaigning for the office of the President of the Nigerian Bar Association that the thrust of the leadership of the bar should be to upgrade the livelihood of the Nigerian lawyer. You found in a lot of situations that most matters that went to the police station got settled by the police.
Okay.
They never went to court. To the detriment of the parties and their ability to have legal representation. You found a lot of the solicitors' works being given out by corporate bodies being done by non-lawyers.
Okay.
And they also found that even in estate matters, the drafting of rent agreements, everybody started doing that. And so during my tenure, we tried to refocus the mindset of the lawyer to all these areas that were veritable avenues for enlarging the cost of his practice. Particularly one area which up till now we have not succeeded was in getting every local government to employ at least 10 lawyers. You see, the federal government has an attorney general and a department of the attorney general chambers. The state has equivalent, but the local government, 774 of them, do not have.
At all?
Do not have. Perhaps maybe Lagos mainland will have because of the sophisticated nature of it, but it is not something that is structured in the local government law. We were saying at that time, let there be a uniform legislation to be passed by each House of Assembly and the National Assembly for the area councils in such a way that every local government will, by force of law, have a legal department. Now it is important because local governments have lost their directions because they have no legal foundation. This is what it is. During the colonial era, you had bylaws coming from different local councils. They were called native authorities then, or designated native authorities. You could easily have the legal department of a native authority or equivalent of a local government provide rules for markets, for health, for even grazing, because they are residual matters, for health, buildings. They could give you, if you want to build a house today, it's up to the local government to tell you no more mud houses. We've reached the point where everybody should be able to afford concrete block houses. So it was my desire and my intention to have every local government have a legal department that can advise the chairman and councillors of the local government that to activate and fund the local governments vis-a-vis their schedule in the constitution. That is, those items which they can deal with, which are residual to them, that they need to have a legal department that is well grounded, trained in local government law and administration, that can regulate the activities of local governments in many ways.
And it would actually bring about sanity.
Sanity, yes.
At the local
and
levels.
We would have avoided the situation today of this herdsman this, bandits this, because the local governments would have created by legal instruments regulations to ensure that it is the local, the non-urban areas are habitable and pleasant
Yes.
for people to live in. But we seem in Nigeria to underestimate the power of a legal structure, to underestimate the advantages of having structures in law that will be obeyed by everybody. The essence of having at least 10 members is that you have an enforcement unit. Some make the laws and some ensure it is obeyed.
It is obeyed.
But then the head of the place will be like a local government attorney general, like sort of a county attorney in charge of the county.
Okay.
And that would have, but you don't have that, and it's a disastrous environment out there.
When you were outlining some of your achievements as the NBA president, you talked about the reformation of the criminal justice system.
Yes.
I agree with you that there have been some reformations, but when we take a look at what operates in Nigeria today, definitely there's still room for improvement, because day in, day out, we still have on more reformations in the criminal justice system. What are we doing right and what are we doing wrong?
You see, there can never, even in the most sophisticated of legal systems, be a time where you will sit down and say, well, we have reached the peak of advancement in criminal justice. Well, let us just sit down and enjoy. All the criminals are now good people. You'll never get to that point. And it's just like Chinua Achebe said in Things Fall Apart, that the Eneke Bird said, since hunters have learned to shoot without missing, he too has learned to fly without perching. And so these criminals or suspected criminals get more and more sophisticated every day. They devise new means of trying to separate the populace with their peace, with their money, and with their livelihood. And as soon as these things get to a point, you have to ensure that your policing is top notch. The court system is also in a fantastic shape, and the prisons are also of international standards. Now, on these three scores, I will score Nigeria about 5%.
Wow.
That is because
5%.
5%. That is because of certain factors. In terms of apprehending the criminal, we have a good police force, but a large number of them are distracted by the rat race of I want to make it in life. And therefore corrupt motives and tendencies creep into these things. And because of the factor of corruption, you find out that a murder case is reported, and you hear the police trying to settle that kind of case. Armed robbers are caught and are never charged to court.
But isn't that a function of perhaps the quality of pay package they take home?
No, it has nothing to do with money. Yes. It has nothing to do with money. It indeed, policing, the justice system, magistracy, lawyers, prison officers, they are a calling. If you are not passionate about it, don't go near it. Because it's also areas where you can, being divisive and corrupt, think you can make a lot of money. There are a lot of people who don't fear God or love their fellow human being. And therefore, it is easy for them to damn the consequences and to turn the law upside down, especially where it starts from the very top. If the commissioner of police looks aside and the kidnapping ring is operating and they bring him returns in sums of monies that are beyond what he will expect to retire with, that he can invest build a hotel in his local government or a guest house, and every weekend people who are coming for burial, birthdays, weddings, lodge there, and they give him returns. He, as far as he's concerned, couldn't be bothered. That is his retirement benefit. But at what expense? It is at the expense of the society. How many lives would have been lost? And then take down the trickle-down effect from himself to his assistant commissioner to the DPO to the man at the counter, who is the first contact. The man at the counter knows that nothing is coming from the top to him. So he tells you, if you want to make statement, you have to go and buy paper. But it's special paper, so you bring the money.
It can be bought
elsewhere, yes. And or I use my money, print them. So you pay for it. So he sits down there. There are 100 complaints in a day. He charges 1,000 to 2,000 for just paper alone.
Wow.
To him, he will pay to be kept in that place. Then you go to, and then that happens all through every contact. You find out that the few cases that end up in court are cases of people who are either adamant that we don't want to play the corruption card, or people who have no money to offer and are somewhat destitute.
But sometimes the corruption also gets to the courts.
Yes, that's the next stage. And when it gets to the courts, then you talk about issues about bail. There are some, with respect, twisted minds on the bench who will now insist, go and see my clerk, bail here is 50,000 or 100,000. And those, when it's reached the court, Nigerians will definitely, you have one relation who knows another relative, who knows one another, Buro and Egbon, here, uncle there, the traditional ruler. They will rally something around and say, go and give them. You know that. Then the lawyer is the final port. He files one token application and he gets the least paid. At the end of the day, that goes there. Then the trial continues. You will look for the IPO, you may not find him. They'll tell you he has been transferred to Calabar, or he has been transferred to Maiduguri, or he has left service. And depending on
the IPO on an existing case.
And it's a case that should normally spend 2-3 months to be concluded, takes 5-8 years. And so what kind of system is that? At the end of the day, assuming you are fortunate to have a conviction, and the man is sentenced to prison, which prison are you going to send him to? They are full, because they have put awaiting trial people there, who probably will never be tried. One day one chief judge will go around and release them. Now, these people have stayed longer than if you tried them and convicted them for what you are suspecting them for. They would have finished serving their sentence.
Some would even die in the process.
A lot of people die. Respiratory diseases because of mold in the buildings. Some of the buildings are over 100 years old, over 120 years old. They are colonial structure. I advocated that in 1999 that the government coming in, if you want to fight corruption, go and build 3 prisons in every state. One medium, one maximum, and another minimal security prison. And have 3 in all the states, with at least no less than 1,000 capacity for each one. Because the population of Nigeria from colonial times had increased from 40 million to 180 million people, perhaps more.
Yes.
And so there are a lot of criminals who roaming around the street looking for what to engage themselves with. So at the end of the day, even if the system apprehends, tries them and convicts them, you have nowhere to put them that will either reform them or will show them some form of retribution. That's why there are jail breaks. That's why people just die carelessly in the prisons. And so we have not started, and we have no desire to start.
Wow.
Because those who understand this, and I can tell you I'm one of the least qualified to speak about it. People in government have many reports that have been written lying on the shelves But that willpower is not there, because when money is voted for it, there
It's
is also
diverted
diverted
elsewhere.
for one very relevant and unimportant objective or the other. So long as we continue to thrive in wrong priorities, in corrupt practices, then we will never make it. We will always be looking as if we are disintegrating, or that my colleague the Yoruba man is the problem, or the Igbo man is the problem. They are not. It's our attitude which cuts round everybody that is the problem. And until we change our attitude, we change our manners. You see, it is easier for us to live with our small pay. Maybe in a month, if I go home with, say, 150,000, you come home with, say, 120,000, let the MD or your DG not come home with 3 million, because his wife can go to the market. What you will be pricing for, I beg, my customer reduced now from 900 naira per mudu to 850. She will buy the whole thing and dash her 10k. So you are not operating in the same economy.
Level, in the same
But yet,
economy.
if he was only limited to his salary, I'm not saying
Yes.
the organization, I've just used it as an
Yes,
example.
as an example.
If everybody was limited to his legitimate pay, nobody takes anything, our economy will be the best in the world, because we will not have anybody going to intimidate. Nobody's wife will enter the market and
intimidate others.
You pay your own, I buy my own, and all of us we stroll out of the place. So we have a long way to go, but it's not in whether you put legislation, though it may be a tool to it, but we have to change our attitudes. If not, we'll perish.
Wow. We need to change our attitude lest we perish. Now, still talking along these lines of changing our attitudes, I'm sure you'll also agree that, yes, it is important that as we change our attitude, we also have legislations in place. And so coming from the talk of the criminal justice system, now let's take an overview of the Nigerian legal system, not just the criminal system, because when you were talking about, the criminal system, in fact, the one that got me the worried most was about the prisons. Because I didn't even, think deep enough to realize that a lot of these buildings are actually over 100 years old.
When you get back to Lagos, check Ikoyi prison. When was it established? Before you go to Kirikiri.
In fact, I drove past Ikoyi prisons a few months ago and I just shook my head.
It's an eyesore.
It is an eyesore. Now, an overview of the Nigerian legal system vis-a-vis the enthronement of democracy as against military rule. How have we fared? We're supposed to have fared better.
The only reason why we fared better in the military regime was because the structures of government were limited to military men. And give them some credit. They are stickler to their rules. Not that a few of them, or a lot of them in power, political power, did not save or keep monies against the rainy day. Because every Nigerian will tell you, if you don't do it, by the time you leave there, nobody is going to say thank you to you, which I think is a very wrong idea. But so military regime had only the advantage of the fact that the structures of power was not as loaded as we have here. Here you have a system which encourages a dissipation of all the nation's wealth on recurrent expenditure. You have one bloated federal government. You have 36 state
37 actually.
Together with Abuja,
Yeah.
which is has a minister as the governor. And then you have sets of commissioners with several sets of special advisors, PAMSEX, SSG, SAs,
PAs.
You have all of them, all drawing from the same pot. And then you want to cook different dishes from that pot. It's not going to be possible, because what goes into that pot is limited, and yet you are adding more liabilities into it. So that's the distinction between the military regime. There was more money to work with, to do projects with, even though they still had that Nigerian factor of people taking what did not belong to them. And pretending that all was well. But here you have a situation where, first of all, there are scarce resources. Money is scarce. A lot of competing esophaguses wanting to swallow the money.
Yes.
And then you get to a point whereby these people start devising means of excluding other people from participating in the national cake. Then factors of religious intolerance comes in. Ethnic jingoism comes in. People will now say, oh, this thing is not meant to be shared by you, and you had your turn the last time. So please, only my people will enjoy it. And when it's left with you and your people in the room, they now look for a divisive factor and say, you
are the head, you've enjoyed enough.
No, you are from this branch of this family. Your great-grandfather misbehaved. And therefore, we have decided to punish you for his offense. So all of you in this side, please leave the room.
Wow.
We want to share this thing.
Wow.
Let's use Olori Ebi now. As they say, he sends them out. Then the few that remain in, he will then find a way, of course, to reduce their number until it gets to only him. Then he pockets this.
Wow.
So all this divisiveness and things that are being introduced to make us seem as if we're enemies of one another, it's just from the selfish attitude of who is in charge of the knife to cut the cake, because he wants to keep the entire thing for himself. It's only when it has reached a point where all eyes are on him, then he may not be able to, then he will cause trouble amongst a few people, and then find 2 or 3 people to share with. But it's never allowed to start from the grassroots, where we borrowed democracy for, copied democracy from. It is understood that you must make the poor man happy.
Exactly.
You must give him every facility so that you can sleep at night in your house.
Yeah.
When the poor man is, that's why in Nigeria we always devise the farthest ghettos and go and keep them there.
Keep the poor man.
And then you stay in this, but your driver, your cook
comes from that ghetto
every day and sees the kind of life you are chopping.
Opulence, yeah.
And so if he develops Ebola from there, it's in a matter of short time that
he brings
it to you. No running water, no power, nothing. You don't even know which part of the town he stays. All you want to see him is that he must report at 7 o'clock in the morning. But in those places, they ensure that the people who are considered poor have facilities to the same thing as the big man has. A janitor in the US, there's a man who cleans buildings, will drive his Jeep to work, park it. The MD will come and park the same Jeep. They have all bought on credit. They are paying higher purchase. He takes from his salary. Maybe it will take him about a few years more than the big man to finish paying. But the big man can't say, I'm driving S-class and the poor man is not. He says that because it's his money. He's only scheduled his payment, and there is a stable society.
So the legal system fared better under the military.
Yeah, supposedly it did fare better because there was enough to go around. But under the civilians, we have a group of people that call themselves the political class. And what that means is that these are people who probably, they might sue me, not contribute too much to the economy. I don't really mind. But I expect someone to say, I am an architect. I am a farmer. I am, like General Obasanjo will say, he calls himself a farmer.
Yes.
A carpenter. I'm an engineer. I'm a mechanic. I'm a refrigeration engineer. Find a name for the work you're doing. We don't say you shouldn't go and represent the people. But our Nigerian politicians proudly will announce, I am a politician.
I'm a politician. That is a job.
Yes, that's their job description and that's their profile. And they have already introduced certain rules into what they call in the North, siyasa, or Ushelu in the West. And they have their rules. They tell you, wait your turn.
Rules of the game.
Yes, tell you, wait your turn. The leader is this, that. At the end of the day, it's all about sharing formula. For what does not belong to them. What they promise people that they will bring electricity, bring roads, bring education. They never do it. And yet, when it's time for elections, as we are running into another set of elections, the same people come, they know what the people want to hear and eat. Say, you take 5,000, you take this, you take that, you take this atampa, that is guinea book, wrapper. You take that, you take that. Then the poor man looks at, even if I don't take it, he will still rig this election.
And I'll be the one.
And so let me just take this thing. But I would have preferred you just reject him and leave him to God. Let God now deal with him. Because at the end of the day, the politicians will turn against themselves, enter into a battle of attrition, and destroy themselves. Because these things cannot continue forever. And that's what we are seeing today. All this banditry that you are seeing, all this the use of thugs to kidnapping, it is by politicians who could not make it to the treasury to take directly. So they say, okay, if we can't take directly, we will then we take it indirectly. We'll make you spend, when you have to go and bail your relatives out of kidnappers, then, and we are the Baba Saleh of those people, then we will be able to share this money.
Goodness.
So it has to do with the political class. The moment they straighten their acts, you will see all these things.
Wow. Honestly, this is worrisome, I must say.
It is.
It is worrisome because, sadly so, I don't see any lights immediately.
Or anything being done to arrest the situation.
Exactly.
See, the politicians are like ostriches. They just bury their head in the sand and they leave their fleshy back outside and the lion is eyeing them. But they say nothing happened, nothing's wrong.
Wow.
But until we start thinking how, and the educated generation is getting older.
Yes.
And we're not really, people can't go to school again because it has degenerated to the point where you go and pick children from school and take them to the mountains.
Exactly.
And ask for ransom, which most parents can't pay because already they're impoverished. And so they wait for government to be able to declare sharing formula. So it is really bad. It is bad. And we must turn 180 degrees.
Not 360
No, if you'll be back to the same sport.
We'll be back to the same sport.
Yes.
Now, there's been a clamor. I mean, we've talked about, you've mentioned banditry, kidnapping, terrorism, whatever that you can mention. Religious intolerance, ethnic intolerance. A lot of people are of the opinion that we need to rejig our 1999 constitution. That Nigeria cannot continue to operate with the constitution as it is today because times have changed, the parameters have changed, and we cannot continue to do things the way it has always been done and expect to get a different result. What's your take?
I think my views are very well known on this point. And my views are that there's nothing wrong with the Constitution. There's everything wrong with those who are to apply the Constitution. This is a country where people do not want to operate under the rule of law. They would rather me and you are bound by law and they are above the law. It doesn't work that way. Those who designed the Constitution designed it to be followed by everybody. So you can't sit and say, I am a governor, I am the president, but this law won't apply to me because
I'm XYZ.
I am who I say I am. It doesn't work that way, because when you live there, it will apply to you, but at that time you would have created avenues with which to avoid the effects of that law. So that's why people think the 1999 Constitution is not working. A Constitution actually does not work because of the kind of content it is. Even the country, UK, that does not have a written Constitution, obeys its conventions in such a way that the society is one of the best run societies in the whole world.
Yes.
We have a Constitution that spells out every single detail that is required for you to run the country. Yet, we observe the Constitution more in the breach than in compliance. So, as far as I'm concerned, before I can join the school of thought or the bandwagon that there is something wrong with the 1999 Constitution, I must see the Constitution being applied, strictly and fastidiously. If you now do it and we still see bottlenecks, then I will agree that there is a need to see it. But you have never obeyed the Constitution
in the first instance.
In the first instance. Yet you say it's because the Constitution is bad. Obey it. Because that is the same thing that will happen if you bring in another Constitution.
It will not be obeyed.
It will not be obeyed. And they will say it is that faction who were not happy with the 1999 Constitution. Bring back the 1999 Constitution.
We keep going
around in circles. While the same people keep playing this ping pong with us. They toss us here, they toss us back. Well, I've seen through their design. Obey the 1999 Constitution. They say, don't appoint a political activist to certain offices. But you insist that you must appoint such a person. Those are the things that are...
So how do we get to that point where we will obey the Constitution? What do we need to do individually and collectively? Because it's worrisome.
Yes, its answer is very simple. People, that is Nigerian, the people who bear the brunt must throw off that burden of considering themselves as underdogs. They must see themselves as holding the power. I know a lot of people who on a polling day, election day, on general election, will not go near the polling station. Of course, people will cast votes for them by proxy, because that's where ballot stuffing comes in. They vote on his behalf, because they know there are 500 people there. Technically, you see 200. The remaining 300, maybe 10 are dead. The remaining 470, somebody will enter the room and print and they go. If they are not happy with the situation, thugs are sent there, they beat up everybody, carry the real ballot box, bring the fake one, and they count that one at the end of the day. So the people must safeguard their democracy. If you want to practice democracy, nobody practices it for you. It will get to the point whereby people may not even be able to walk from here to this junction, because somebody will ask you to pay him a toll fee or protection fee. For you to be safe in this area, you must pay us X amount in a month. We are getting to that point. But here America was there at a point in time, and when their brains cleared, they took up the gauntlet themselves. But where our own is different is that we are not educating our children again. What happens is that once anybody gets liberated, he sends the child abroad, where he's tutored to believe that life there is better than here, and he never comes back. So we're using our money to train manpower for foreign countries, when we should use our money to educate our people. The problem in the North has always been the fact that our leaders in the North here have refused steadfastly to educate the common people. And because they have refused to do that, you have a lot of candidates for kidnapping
Yes.
and banditry,
Yes.
criminal activities, even terrorism.
Yes.
And therefore, both the selfish leader and probably people in real cannot sleep again. So, to answer your question, the ball is back into the court of we Nigerians. 2023 is coming. We must take charge of the system. We must see it as a life or death matter. And we must ensure that we begin to insist that there should be free, fair, and credible elections, and that we must participate in it.
We must participate in it. I mean, when you just talked about elections now, the issues that we've been having in recent times and all the losses that INEC has suffered really comes to mind. The burning of polling booths, destruction of ballot boxes, election materials, card readers, and all. I don't know. It's just a worrisome situation.
These are all activities of the political class. Who else will be carrying out such activities?
Political class
Those who says employing
we the common man.
Yes, for a because now, short of starving, everybody wants to belong. And therefore, the young men who have not been employed for 7-10 years on the street suddenly sees a politician to say, come and be my PA. 10 of you are my PAs. It buys them guns. That gives them power. And they go around and gives them money, puts money in their pockets. Go and bring this person. He insulted me the other day. He was talking rubbish. Let us deal with him. The boys come and rough you up. At the end of the day, you decide between yourself and your maker whether it is better to go and talk rubbish to a Baba politician or to just maintain your cool. So, it's, before it gets to a point of no return, that even a drastic change of government will not be able to reverse things, I think we should, if not, we risk fragmentation. People will just break away. Have 30 countries out of Nigeria.
Out of Nigeria. Wow. Now, Joseph Daudu, you are a man who some people would refer to as, quote and unquote, a bit of a controversial lawyer. I know that you have also defended one or two controversial individuals, and one that readily comes to mind is the immediate past Senate President, Bukola Saraki, at the ICPC. What determines the quality and type of clients you take up, and even the cases?
Yes, you see, I believe in our ethics. There is what is called the cab rank rule. Like if you go to any suburb in Lagos and taxis are lined up, the taxis are not allowed to pick their customers. They queue up in line.
You don't shunt.
You don't shunt. Whether it's an old car or a new car, if it's this man's turn, you must enter.
Yes.
The same thing with the lawyer. It's called the cab rank rule. A client comes to you, you are not allowed to reject him. Yes, you must accept it. You can't say, I'm moralizing. I don't take cases of...
So your morals don't come into it?
Your morals has nothing to do with it, because the Constitution already says the person is presumed innocent until proven guilty. And you as a lawyer should be the first to enforce the constitutional right of the so-called individual, of the suspect. So when a person comes to you, you are not allowed to reject the brief, because that is your bounden duty. It's like a priest.
Or like a doctor too.
A doctor. They bring a gunshot wounded person to you, you must treat the person.
First.
Don't mind Nigerian doctors who say bring police report. It's because they feel the person will not have the money to pay. That's why they do it. It's not because if the person puts money on the table,
they will treat.
They will treat. The so includes
regardless of the police.
And the police have said treat and call us. will come and investigate.
There's
It's not
even
an
been
offense.
a bill to that effect
Yes.
that has been passed.
Passed. So, but till today, because they don't know if he dies, who will pay, knowing the Nigerian culture. So that is one of it. The second reason is that people specialize. So people specialize. And criminal law is a branch of law that very few people understand or know how to practice it at that level. Apart from that, it also has areas of financial crimes, fraud, white-collar crimes, money laundering, things that you need to have spent years studying before you can defend the person and get the kind of results. And then, thirdly, maybe your general aptitude. So, they don't just look at ex-lawyer and come to him because he's their friend. No. It is even the exact opposite. I have known people who were in power for 8 years, didn't look at my side, didn't say, come and take this small case and do it for us, even though they had the powers. But as soon as they bundle them
Out of power.
as soon as they're out of power and the EFCC starts chasing after them,
They remember you're
they
there.
then ask, who is the
Best
best person who understands
that can handle this
case? And who has been having results in these areas? Then they come to you. Then you smile within yourself.
So you have come.
You have come.
The chicken has finally come home to roost.
So you have come. Are you now going to tell me at that point, when I have an opportunity to earn money for the work or the school that my parents sent me to, that I should now tell this man to go away because he's accused of stealing money? I will collect it. I will collect it and happily go and defend him.
Wow.
Anybody that is unhappy, let him send his child to go and read a course. And when it's time for the child to use that course to make his own livelihood better, tell the child that he should go and turn to a pastor.
Oh, goodness. But in taking up such cases, are there times that, you're given a brief for a case and you look at it as maybe a lost cause? That this case, except maybe by divine intervention or
there will always
miracle,
be divine intervention.
so that doubt never comes in.
Yes, because you are the child of God and you are doing the work he put you to do. And for them to get to the stage of looking for you, of course it's really a bad case. But I can tell you, the advantage that the Nigerian defense lawyer has is that most times the investigator does not do a thorough job. He starts from the top to the bottom instead of from bottom
to top.
In fact, they draft charges and take to court without having investigated them.
Wow.
So when you come in, it's like if you are being given a penalty kick to take to an empty net. It's only if your leg is broken.
Yes, so that you won't
score that goal. So in most cases, you are left with very minimal application of even the law. There are instances where good lawyers prosecute and reinvestigate the case. Then you have work in your hands. But that's where your skill, your experience, your intellect comes in. But at the same time, many are called, but few are chosen.
But few are chosen. Okay, because I know that many are called, but few are chosen, I would want us to take a pause on this conversation because it's important we get to meet one or two people that you have either worked with or defended.
I've known Joseph Daudu for the past 14 years. I'll describe him as as a hard worker and a stickler to details, and also a very religious person. When Mr. Daudu has made a position on something, if he believes in something, it's usually very, very difficult to persuade him, to say, no, don't let us go this way. So I think that's one major area I think I probably have noticed about him. He's also someone who doesn't compromise. Compromise in the sense that doesn't compromise standard. And these are part of the things we've learned from him in the profession. That, You can only achieve success in this profession by working very hard and integrity too, your personality. You don't compromise in any way that will affect your integrity as a legal practitioner.
I'll describe him as a very intelligent man, very humble, and very considerate. I'll describe him as a father figure because that's what he has become for me. Beyond being my employer, I doubt if there are employers like him, really, because as a woman, particularly, I found him to be very, very considerate in dealing with married women, particularly in his office, because he considers what time you close from work. When giving you assignments, he seeks your convenience, but he'll make sure you're on top of the job while putting into consideration your responsibilities as a mother and as a wife. He's someone who challenges you because he gives you a task and may not even explain to you how you're supposed to go about it, just to test you. And when you carry out the task on your own and he's able to see that you exhibit some level of intelligence and commitment, believe me, he will hold your hand and take you. He's really a mentor.